again welcome all of you to this one of the very special programs we conduct at TIE. And actually, it turns out that this is the 10th year of this program called MyStory. And if I'm not mistaken, I think our today's guest is the 50th, individual featured with his, wonderful story about his life journey and that of entrepreneurship. So I think you are all in really for a treat. Let me just take you a few minutes just to, introduce myself, who I am, and also more about TIE. So I've been involved with TIE since inception, and this is one of the organizations that I really, dearly love, and I will do anything and everything to support this organization. The history of TIE, since most of you are, not new to TIE, but it never hurts to go back and sort of revisit, how we got started and why. Well, we got started because a lot of us, came from South Asian region, back in the 60s or the 70s, and not knowing a single soul, not having a, pretty much a dime in our pocket. And, we turns out that we succeeded beyond our wildest imagination. And we said, gee, won't that be nice? Then we form a society that can help and encourage and promote entrepreneurship, wherever it is welcome. And that is the genesis of TIE. And we have not deviated from that mission at all. This is our 29th year of TIE. It'll be 30 years for next year. And so we decided to make it a non-profit organization. And I just want to remind everybody that we are the only non-profit organization that promotes for-profit causes, for all sectors, including now, impact and the whole ESG movement, which is environmental, social, and governance, is a big thing that is happening in the modern days. So what we really do, we do two things. All our programs are geared toward two things. On one hand, we try to inspire people, we try to inform people, we try to educate people, we try to prepare people, and we also try to fund people toward starting new ventures. And today's program basically talks about the first element of what we do, which is called inspire. And how else can one get inspired other than listening to inspiring stories of the, of the most successful entrepreneurs or executives in our midst. So this is where we have continued on. The other thing we do is we try to point entrepreneurs in the direction where the opportunities are, and that means more toward the future. So while we point them to the future, but we also want to make sure that we're always relevant and we're always forward-looking. So that's the thing about TIE. Now, right from a very humble beginning in Silicon Valley 29 years ago, we have fanned out into 15 countries, 61 cities, and our programs now have a reach of more than 100 countries. And more than 500,000 people now get used to our program from all walks of life, and they come and attend our programs. So we are very, very, happy about that. The impact that we have created overall is, is like upwards of, $500 billion to $1 trillion range. And the brand is very, very strong. So this is all about TIE. And now, so the core of this TIE is successful entrepreneurs who we call charter members. So they pay their dues, and they also give their time and energy to support, the next generation of entrepreneurs. And they serve as attractants to all the future generation of entrepreneurs who we call members. And membership is open to anybody. Membership is very, very inexpensive, as you know. It's like the cost of, paying 15 minutes of a good, decent lawyer's time, or half an hour of a decent accountant's time, or maybe, dinner for 4 decent meal, okay? That is the total cost, annual cost to be a member. Since most of you are members, so I highly encourage you to go and try to encourage other people to become a member, because the cost of joining is just, minuscule, but the benefit that you get is just immense. So with that note, I just want to introduce, our fearless leader here, Naveen Bisht. Naveen served as a board member when I was president of TIE, from 2009 till 2012 timeframe. And one of the programs that we launched, and Naveen kind of ran with it, is called MyStory. So Naveen, has been a serial entrepreneur, has done a lot of wonderful stuff, and continue to serve the community. And he has been steadily involved with TIE for many, many years. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Naveen, who will introduce our guest of honor, Shri. And so take it away, Naveen.
Thank you, Vish. Really appreciate it. And thank you for being here. For those, as Vish mentioned, Vish has been the guiding force right from the inception of this, Thai Silicon Valley. In fact, the Thai organization, which has spread all over the world now. And that's why today, yesterday I invited Vish, even though he's been busy with other event of Thai, still supporting, helping, volunteering all the time and trying to get sponsorship to everything. And he still carved out the time from there to come here and do the intro and talk about Thai's history. So thank you, Vish, again, and we really, really appreciate your time to be here. So with that, let me start today's session. So for those who are here in the western part of the world where it's evening, so good evening, and for those who are in the parts where it's morning, so good morning to you all. So one thing, please begin to write down your questions which you want to ask our amazing speaker entrepreneur today on the Q&A section. Please do that, not on the chat part of chat part of the screen, so that we can answer all of them. So with that, we'll get started. So we have an amazing entrepreneur today, Dr. Srinivas Mukkamala, who not only created a recognized leader in the risk-based vulnerability management software market, but by founding RiskSense in 2015, and also got it acquired by Ivanti a couple of months ago in August 2021. Ivanti provides the automation platform that makes every IT connection smarter, secure across devices, infrastructure, and people to deliver personalized employee experiences. Ivanti acquired RiskSense basically to revolutionize the patch management software market and also help customers proactively to combat cyber threats and ransomware attacks. Company garnered a number of awards over the years since its founding, and Srinivas is also a recognized authority in the artificial intelligence and neural networks communities and was part of a think tank that collaborated with the US Department of Defense on applying these concepts to cybersecurity problems. He was also one of the lead researchers for CACTUS, which stands for Computational Analysis of Cyber Terrorism Against the United States, and holds a patent on intelligent agents for distributed intrusion detection systems and method of practicing. He holds a PhD and MS in computer science from New Mexico Institute of Mining and Technology. So without taking too much of thrill from Srinivas' story, I would like to hand it over to him to share his exciting, colorful, and amazing entrepreneurial and professional journey. So let's give him a big round of virtual applause so he can hear it. Srinivas, to you.
Thank you, Naveen. Thank you, Vish. Thanks for this amazing opportunity, Ty. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen as well. So as Vish introduced, Srinivas Mukkamala, I started my journey from a small town called Socorro, New Mexico. I don't know if you all know it. It's called the astrophysics capital of the world. That's exactly how the sky looks from New Mexico. It's one of the best places to actually look at the sky. And I would say that's my inspiration, right? If people Socorro can build the best astrophysics, best petroleum recovery, why not a cybersecurity company? And this is where I came in with nothing from in India in year 2000, right? Like most of us here in the United States, like Vish said, we all come with pretty much nothing, right? All we have is an undergraduate degree and hoping for a better story. So my story started in a very small town in the United States called Socorro. It's a town of about 5,000 people. So with that, I'll continue my journey. So where did I start? I have an interesting journey. Wanted to be a youth Congress leader under Y.S. Rajshekar Reddy, the late Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh. That was my desire. I wanted to be a politician in India from my hometown. And this was year 2000. I fondly remember, had an opportunity to meet him. He was the leader of opposition, and he was guaranteed to be the next chief minister of Andhra Pradesh. I met him with my father, and I told him my desire to join Youth Congress. He just chuckled and he said, seriously, do you want to do that? I think you should rethink and go back and continue as an engineer. Well, I mean, that was not a great thing, but I said, fine, what is destined is destined. And I had an opportunity to actually be an intern at the Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO. So from Youth Congress to an intern at Indian Space, I interned for 6 months and learned neural networks for India's first GSLV-2 launch. So trying to plan the trajectory of a spacecraft. So fortunate enough to learn neural networks there, and heard a keynote speech and quite a few things talking about real-time Linux, and started looking at what does this real-time Linux mean? And that was a software that was developed by New Mexico Tech for high-performing defense systems, for Hollywood systems, Hollywood cameras, and so forth. So the desire sparked in me, and then I applied for my master's to come to the United States. I got admitted at New Mexico Tech in the middle of nowhere. When you have so many options to go to, I chose to go to New Mexico Tech. So once I got to the university, I had an amazing opportunity where the United States government in the year 2000 was looking for researchers who can help them solve AI problems for cybersecurity outside the Beltway. I mean, there's a saying, right? You got to be at the right place at the right time. There are 3 things that aligned, you'll see in my journey, that worked out for me. My advisor was a world-renowned expert in support vector machines, and he is considered the father of logic programming. So he inspired me to continue my neural networks research, but asked me to think something outside the box. And I'll talk a little bit more. That allowed me to become a researcher from an intern to start looking at cybersecurity and machine learning problems. So then we had 9/11 in the United States, and the government got even more interested, and they wanted to put in a team of researchers that can solve cyber terrorism problems. And I had an opportunity to become one of the lead scientists to start solving cyber terrorism problems. As you can see, we are from New Mexico, and as a desert state, we wanted to name a project Cactus that resembles and resonates who we are, but with a lot of mission-oriented stuff, cybersecurity and cyber terrorism, with a lot of AI and ML. So while I was doing that, I had a very good desire to go build something. I was not satisfied with what I did. This is great. I contributed to the nation. I supported whatever I could, but I want to know where my work is actually being used. So when you're in the government, very rarely you'll know what your work will be used and where. So I wanted to see whatever we build, I wanted to realize the fruits of it and really see that. Then decided to continue to build and became a CTO and a co-founder. I'm not a CEO when we started the company. I was just a CTO. Wanted to build things, continue to be a techie, didn't want to do anything with business. But fortune turns, and you always, as a co-founder, have to step up to the occasion to become a CEO. I'll tell you in a minute the forcing function. Then I became the CEO of what's called RiskSense today. So today, I'm the SVP of Security Products at Ivanti, as Vish talked about, and Naveen. We are one of the world's largest cybersecurity companies, focused on several things from discovery to patch to managing risk to ITSM. So we're very well known for what we do. And then through the acquisition of RiskSense, that's when I got elevated to actually run all cybersecurity for Ivanti. So who is a big part of my journey? So, I mean, like every personal story, my family is a big part, right? It's the sacrifices they make that make entrepreneurs successful. So my wife is a PhD like me, but she sacrificed her career for me to be really successful. I think that was a very important journey and a very important decision we took as a family. And we have 2 boys, 11 and 6 now, and they missed every single occasion while I was trying to figure out what is our destiny. right? As a family, we made tons of sacrifices. And my sister was a big part of our journey as well. And she was always a big moral support for me. I mean, whether it's spiritual or whether it's, really always there to cheer. And then, of course, without the blessings of your parents, you won't be successful, right? So it's my father and my mother who always were there to really encourage and then wanted to see me be very successful. So this is my family. I wanted to share, who they are. I was born in a very small village called Kolavenu in Andhra Pradesh. So the fun fact is, if you're from Andhra, you will love this. So the word stands for Kotlu, Lakshalu, Velu, and Nurlu. It's a very prosperous village. It stands for crores, lakhs, thousands, hundreds. So that's our village. So it's a land of movie producers who defined Tollywood. So that's the village I was born. I was raised there. And so our family is my own inspiration. So a lot of people have different inspirations. So from day one, I was inspired by my grandfathers. I've seen both sides of the journey. So my father's father was the first grocer in our village. So he dropped out of school because he wanted to support his father start a grocery store. A very poor farmer who started a grocery store, married his daughter to an engineer, and put my dad through medicine. Was the first doctor from a very poor farmer. He did that by being a grocer. He was an entrepreneur in his own way to support his family and send them to a private school in those days while living in the village. So my mother's father was a movie producer. And if you look at the two extremes of the pyramid, right? Born to the riches is my mom. My father was born to a grocer. And my grandfather produced one of the first movies that was super duper high budget. It's called Sati Sulochana Indrajit, right? So you can see, I've seen both of them and I've seen the tides turn. My dad's family, we are 4 cousins. We all did extremely well. And my mom's family did not quite do well, right? I've seen riches go down. I've seen people who focus on hard work really come up. So what I've seen is Dr. Murlike Devi is our extended family. He was the inspiration. He was a chemist in the United States, came back to India to provide a living to thousands of people. That was his mission. Can I help any graduate, any educated person give a better life? That was the mission he started with. And today he's ranked on Forbes. He built a company from scratch to a $10 billion valuation, created value for hundreds and thousands of people, not only by giving employment. A lot of people in Andhra bought houses, got their children married, paid for their education. So that was a true inspiration for me. What is that you can do to really create an ecosystem that you look back and say, well, not only I benefited, but I helped several people improve their livelihood. That was a big inspiration for me. I mean, I pretty much as a childhood, I adored, what he was doing, right? Every story was an amazing thing for me. And I had a very rare opportunity when I was doing my master's to ride with him in San Jose. And I asked a lot of questions. The only advice he gave is believe in what you want to be, work hard. And if you ever can make a difference in anyone's life, strive to do that. That is it. It was a simple 2-minute advice. And the next one is my own cousin. It's my first cousin. My dad has one sibling. That's his second son. So Rav is the CEO of Uglass. So standard master's PhD, started View. I mean, he's all about green energy, right? Every airport from San Francisco to Dallas to Charlotte to Atlanta, the glass you see is his glass. And he was a big inspiration for me. And he was always there for me whenever I wanted him, right? When you started, the big decision for me to become a CEO was him. I called him up and I said, I have this opportunity. Should I take it? He said, do you want it? I said, I'm kind of in between. I don't know if I want it or not. He said, if you truly believe in your company, and if it's your baby, you should just step up and do it. And I just jumped with all foot and feet, and then I became the CEO. That was a big inspiration. Even during the exit, it's very emotional, and you want to be able to talk to people who understand what a true entrepreneur goes. And he was always there for me at the time as well, not only when I took over as a CEO, but when I was exiting as well. And his brother is one of the best orthopedicians, pediatric orthopedicians in the world. So he's a friend, he's a mentor, he is a well-wisher, and he's somebody I look up to. Anytime I'm down, anytime I don't feel like I'm at my best, I always call him, right? It's just somebody who I always go and relate and say, I don't know if I'm doing it the right way. So these are some of the people who are leaders in their own way, and they're an amazing inspiration for me to give my best and also look up to them at every moment of my own journey. So where did I start? I started as a researcher, right? I innovated, I contributed to the field. So this is where it's very important. The reason I wanted to quickly give my citation index is, you never know where your work will be used, and you never know what impact you will have. So the first contribution was using support vector machines for intrusion detection. This was, as you can see, cited 1,000 times by peers, right? Since 2002. Even still today, this paper is consistently cited. The reason here is today support vector machines, after 18 years, are a prime machine learning method that's used for cybersecurity problems. And you'll also see another interesting thing. I used agents, right? So intelligent agents for cybersecurity. I always told myself, agents is not the way to go. Though I worked on it, though I have a patent on it, though I contributed to it, I never felt connected. Today, take a look at 2018, 19, 20. We're in an agent brawl, right? Every security company has an agent. They want a real estate of that. It's cited 500 times. And then the work we did on malware, it's called static analysis of vicious executables. The whole concept is, how do you do distance measures, avoid signature-based detection, so you can actually detect polymorphism from a simple detection based, like a cosine measure and a Pearson and a Jacquard. We did that in 2004. So today, that's one of the prime methods used for polymorphic analysis. The reason I did this is to kind of give you never know what you contribute to. You never know how that'll be used after 15, 20 years. While I had a rare opportunity to solve these problems for the United States government and work with some amazing, amazing researchers who were with me at the government setting and also at the university, what did I pick for my journey? I picked risk-based, right? So this is a class project I gave in August 2007, right? And it's a project architecture called Pawn Star. And if you look at the whole concept here, we wanted to bring in the data from all vulnerability scanners, aggregate the data based on protocols, common vulnerability exposures, any references, operating systems, severity, temporal stuff, data sources, MAC addresses, open ports, and services. If you look at the architecture, this is 2007. We're talking about getting the data from your XML, from non-structured, any data source we can, parse it, aggregate it, and report it on your risk. This is the screenshot I took from my 2007 class project. This is when we started our journey as risk-based. I mean, it's amazing. After 13 years, Gartner, RiskSense, Kenna, we all talk about how prime this is, and the industry is realizing the importance of risk-based vulnerability management, right? We're able to create a multi-billion-dollar TAM on this. However, what led me to be this journey? It's a very strong desire to build something, right? I wanted to prove myself. You saw my inspirational leaders. They have built amazing things. They have given back amazing stuff to the society, right? In their own way. So something has to strike, right? When I started meeting several CISOs, At the time, there was no CISO. It is your CIO or somebody who can spell security in 2006, 2007, what the guys who were actually doing security as well. They were using spreadsheets, and it's a lot of brain damage. I'm like, wow, we got to do better than this. If you remember my journey, I was already doing neural networks. So we're already doing neural networks, which means we're trying to analyze a lot of data. There's a better way to look at this vulnerability data, focus on risk, and use your resources. So that's really what striked. And I always wanted to do something that's a pre-incident. This is the time of convergence of firewalls and intrusion detection systems, convergence of log management to the SIMs coming in, and wanted to look at not a perimeter, not an endpoint, nothing to do with the logs. What would be the best thing? So I focused on the vulnerability management side of the house. So this is where your journey starts. And a lot of key individuals who will be instrumental in the entrepreneur's success. So I want to give absolute credit for my advisors, Dr. Andrew Sung and John Louis Lasse. Without them, I'm nobody today, right? They gave me an opportunity to be disruptive, to be bold. In year 2000, if somebody got up and said neural networks is not the way to go, we were looked at as a laughing stock. We simply said, you guys got to be kidding yourself. We said, nope, we know what we're talking about. And we wrote papers. We proved to the industry that SVMs is the way to go because of various challenges, right? Limited data, cursive dimensionality, there are quite a few things SVMs would do better than neural networks. 15 years later, people recognize, yeah, it's a better method to do, right? However, you just got to wait 15 years, but do not get discouraged by people. Focus on what you think, contribute on what you can. Then came Cactus, which we talked about. So when all this was going on, I wanted to incubate, right? I wanted to try it out. I wanted to commercialize this. The president at the time, Dr. Dan Lopez of the university, gave me an opportunity and said, I will support it. We will do it together as a university startup. I will let you incubate. So he gave me a green light. Then they introduced me to Mark Fidel as a business partner. He was a president of the company who was going to help me build the business strategy. And Ram Mova at the time was in Silicon Valley working for TIPCO Systems. I had no idea what a company would look like, how to start, where to start. And I reached out to him and say, hey, can you help? Can you advise us? Can you guide us? We don't even know what to do. So he was gracious enough to come down to New Mexico, help me navigate my initial days of starting what's RiskSense today. In 2015, I met Greg Oslin, who was gracious enough to say, what you're doing as incubation is not going to cut it. You got to move to the Valley. Your company has to have presence here, and you guys really should think about it. While I was absolutely focused in New Mexico, Greg Oslin gave an opportunity for us to actually go raise capital, and we raised capital in 2015 and spun off the company, what's called RiskSense today. You go through your cycles, you'll have different players at different times. In 2015, 18, we're almost at our Series B, then Skip Glass and Raymond Wong and Pat Finn, who was extremely instrumental in helping us get to the next level and helping us raise our Series B. And finally, when you get your exit, Nike Nair, who was the chief product officer for Ivanti, was instrumental in making sure this M&A was a smooth thing. And we actually had a strategy to build beyond that. So if you look at it, every journey is a ton of emotions. This is an amazing slide. Every founder goes to this. February 2010, I felt like I'm flying on cloud 9. My wife tells me I was not even seeing what object I'm hitting because I was like, we're going to build a unicorn, right? Your spirit is so high, you're solving a problem, you're a researcher. May 2015, for the first time, I realized this is much harder than I thought. That's when I met Greg Oslin. He said, building a company means you got to have a CFO, you got to have a marketing leader, you got to have a sales leader, you got to have a product leader, and an engineering leader. I had none. We were just a bunch of 20 engineers building this and making some good money. That's when we realized, ouch, this is much beyond than what we think. Then we raised our capital. By October 2017, we were out of capital. When I say out of capital, we were barely making a payroll. We were winning deals, we're building things, but we took all the money we raised and put it in go-to-market. That is, I would say, the first mistake as an entrepreneur. Without understanding your product, without understanding your scale, you don't just pump up go-to-market. We raised $10 million, we spent it all on go-to-market. By October 2017, we're looking at the sky and saying, what's next? How do we go raise capital? I would call it, that's where it starts, right? This sucks, I have no idea what I'm doing. And that's the hardest part in every CEO journey. We call the downturn. And this is where 90% of them give up, right? So one of the most important things is you don't want to give up. You want to get to that swamp. This is where your family has to support you. This is where my family stood behind me. Hey, you know what? We'll figure it out. And those were the hardest times in any entrepreneur's journey. By April 2019, we were able to raise our capital. We were back up trying to build up. Well, 19 to 2020, the company was not moving the way we want to. COVID hit. And this is where I had to step up and say, well, you know what? I had to define my own destiny. And I got to take care of the 100 families that believed in me. And that's where I put a bold face, 100% transparent to the team. I told them I'm going to take you to the shore or an island, and we're going to work hard, and the destiny will tell where we are. By October 2020, we became cash flow neutral, and we defined our own path. We didn't need any money, and we were very, very well capitalized. So it took us almost 9 months of restless effort from everybody in the company to understand what we're going to do, and we turned this company around. And August 2021, we exited. And everybody who believed in this company made money. Not a single person lost money in this deal. So this is the emotional side, right? You can see the curve. It'll get super emotional. And remember the last thing, it's your family honor. It's your family who stood. Your family here is not just your immediate family, but your team members and their families as well. Never forget that. It is the 100 families of RiskSense who stood behind me and believed in me. And the key is the key moments. Every single time I felt like the burden is on me. Today, I will never do this because yes, I have the burden, but there's no superhuman being, right? And always felt like I'm hanging on to it. These are very tough moments, right? You'll be drained physically, you'll be drained mentally, you'll be drained emotionally. You never know if you lose one arm, what will happen to the rest of the people, right? What I realized in this entire journey is, it is the teamwork and the collaboration that mattered at the end of the day. We got to be aligned. You want to be transparent, you want to communicate. And that's exactly how the final moments of RiskSense were. And we're able to exit in flying colors. And I have 96% of my team with Ivanti today. Everybody came over because we believe in the mission. We want to realize what we started and we want to finish it up, right? So this is a very important moment. And finally, this is what I want to leave with every entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs are what I call a hunter mentality or an animal instinct, right? Not everybody has the chops to be an entrepreneur. That's why we are a handful of people and we're a different breed. I will tell you one thing. A lot of us get into this race, which is great. Then this is an inspiration from Indian epic Mahabharatam, Padma Vyuham, right? Getting into a war is like starting an entrepreneur's journey. Always remember, from day one, figure out a way what is your exit is. Very few of us think through. I will tell you, I talk to so many entrepreneurs. I'll share you my own experience. Do not start a business without a clear exit path for you. You want to be prepared. You want to be ready for the day, and you want to really know what that looks like. And epics will tell you that, and great wars will tell you that. Always have an exit plan. And that'll be my very important advice. And that really helped me a lot. And then finally, what I learned and what matters. Build as a CEO, as a founder, focus on building a product, focus on selling your product, hire a team, and absolutely focus on unblocking. In the initial days, I used to go try to solve everything. I still have a tendency to go roll up my sleeves and solve, but I'm learning it the hard way that focus on enabling your team and unblocking your team. And also remember, build a product to solve pain. Build pain medication, not vitamins. Vitamins are a convenience. We all know if you can't bear a pain, you're willing to pay whatever it takes to buy that medicine. You can pass a day without taking your B12 or a D3 or a calcium tablet, right? Focus on customer acquisition. That is the hardest part in any entrepreneur's journey. And make sure you focus on your design partners and customers who will help you and will adopt what you're building. Cash is king. Don't ever run out of it. And these are my few advices to anybody who is thinking about an entrepreneur journey. With that, thank you all for your time and listening to my journey and my story.
Thank you. Thank you, Srinivas. Really appreciate your awesome story, and thank you for sharing with the whole audience. So let me get started with the first question, and then we'll see audience will obviously start writing. So I wanted to, it's a really fascinating story, which you shared right from your childhood. One thing I wanted you to, if you had to reflect and think back, was there a time when you're a child that's growing up that you ever thought you wanted to become an entrepreneur?
Actually, every day. So I was raised, so my father is a medical doctor. We had humble beginnings. So my cousin's father had a workshop. So he's an engineer by trade, and there are 3 boys. So I had 2 of them here, and they had a small business. So in Andhra Pradesh and in South India, every tanker that carried gasoline and edible oils was built by them. So I used to spend my summers, every weekend I used to go run to their house just for the fun, right? We used to see all these truck owners and all these people come. And I used to love the way they used to bring money in, gunny bags, in sacks to pay. And I used to love counting. I used to love working with the workers and all that. Always was inspired, right? You meet so many people. I met politicians, I met owners, business owners, everybody with different journeys. And they used to sit next to their oil tanker when it's getting built. It was so fun to watch, how they used to come, talk about their businesses, their journeys. It was an amazing inspiration. I always used to laugh. One of these days, I'm going to make a lot of money, right? So that's my inspiration. And I've seen my grandfather, who was a movie producer, who lost all his money. And I said, I don't want that. I want to make money. I want to have an amazing life. So that's my spark. And his brother was Dr. Murali K. Divi. And when he first started coming to India, and that's when I've seen, oh, you can actually build pharmaceutical companies in India and hire thousands of people from your village. So I just saw my own uncles really do that. And I always wanted to do it. And then, of course, my cousin bet me to the punch. He became the CEO first, right? And he has a PhD and all that. So that's really the spark, trying to see their journeys.
That's awesome. Thank you. So let me start with the first question from the audience. Srinivas, is from Aubrey LOCS. What was the exit strategy or plan that you held on to in your journey? Did it work out exactly as planned by August when you exited, or did you need to make adjustments in your plans?
So it did not. So a great question. 2019, we had an inbound from BMC Software. KKR was an inbound asking, we're interested in RiskSense, we would like to explore. The day before KKR reached out, BitSight reached out, talking about an amazing story to combine inside out, outside in story to build a better risk platform. As an entrepreneur, you're on cloud 9. They offered a number. I said, oh, no, nowhere close to it, right? I was not happy, and we dated, and we said, well, no, I'm just going to be on myself. So these were the dates where, you don't understand realism to versus what the true potential is. Then we had BMC, then we had NTT, then we had PwC. All these were false starts. There was great intention from an M&A perspective. We spent so much time distracted in actually going through a process. So when you get those inbounds, your boards get super interested And they say, you know what, let's start a process. Let's hire a banker, have them run the process. You go focus on the business. I will tell you that doesn't work that way. We had a great banker, Momentum Partners, amazing team, very instrumental, but you got to pitch. It's like raising capital. You got to do 60 pitches before you raise capital, right? The same thing with exits. So we had so many false starts. COVID hits. Nobody was willing to take a bite, right? You name it. We were with almost double-digit numbers of false starts. And finally, Ivanti came in, and we had 3 other suitors at the same time with Ivanti. But the other 2, very big names, they wanted more time. And Ivanti said, well, if you don't like our offer, it's take it or leave it. And you get to a very hard situation with the board and with your employees and everybody and the greater good. You got to take the bird in hand. And that's what we did. And I'm very glad we did, because I like the mission of what Ivanti is doing. So we focus on vulnerability, but every single time we recommend a patch. And they're the world's largest patch vendor. That drew me as a researcher. The money is good, the mission is good, and the opportunity for my employees was amazing. We all can grow, we all can learn, and we get a global play. I said, let's just take this and go figure out our next journey at Ivanti. So that's really our journey. I know I shared more detail than you need, but that's what happened.
Awesome story. And obviously you, you navigated it very well. Next question is from Sunit Gala, a friend of mine. He says it's hard to think of an exit when one's green as an entrepreneur. No, so I don't know if you understand that question. I'll let you answer.
I didn't know what an exit was by myself. Again, as I said, it's always good to have mentors in life. I will give you this as well. 2018, December, I think, we were in India. So every year, me and my cousins, we go and we meet at their mom's place. I was just having a general chat, and they said, are you enjoying, my second cousin, Rav, asked me, are you enjoying your gig? I said, I don't know, I'm confused. He said, what do you mean you're confused? I'm split. I don't think the company is going the way I wanted to, because those were the days where Kenna and RiskSense were head to head. And 2018 is a defining year. I lost AT&T, Deloitte, FedEx to Kenna. I call it a death blow for my journey to be a unicorn, but that's okay. I never gave up. I took it as a challenge. We focused on why we lost. By 2019 April, we built it. So that was a moment for me from him. If you're not enjoying, be transparent with your board and tell them that you want to exit. But not today, but you're going to work towards what does it take to exit. And that's this back pocket card I always had. I said, I want to think about an exit. I want to think about an exit. But I was not ready for an exit because the company is not ready to exit, because you haven't created enough value for your employees. You haven't delivered what you promised your customers, and your shareholders would not have made what they intended to make. I put in a priority. What did we promise to our customers? I sat down with my product engineering teams. By June, I want to deliver every single thing we said we will. To date, there'll be new things that'll come in, but let's make sure we deliver, because these people believed and gave us money. Then I told myself, will I have a basic insurance policy for me and my employees who believed in me? And can I return capital? Those are my 3 guiding principles. The moment I struck all these 3 things, I was ready to exit. So I conditioned myself from the thought that these are the 3 things that matter. So to answer this question, how do I think about an exit on day 1? For first-time entrepreneurs, it's very hard. That's why you got to have mentors. You got to be realistic. A lot of us start with a grandiose idea of building a platform. I will tell you, 99.9% of us are solving a very simple problem and building a feature, not a platform. And we have to be realistic. And we will not know that as first-time entrepreneurs. And that's why having the great board, good mentors, good advisors will help you knock some sense. And I was very fortunate to have people around me in the later stages of my journey, not in the early stages. I wish I had people who helped me in the later stages when I really came out of the university. I would have done extremely well. So if I ever have a second act or a second stint, I think I'll be a little better equipped than what I was in my first run.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing candidly. So the next question is from Aaron Sandine. For leaders today, what is the biggest security pain point?
So, I mean, that's a very loaded question, right? For leaders, what is a security pain point, right? I mean, you'll get 1,000 answers from 1,000 leaders. The challenge we have still today, it might sound, visibility is still a big challenge. When I say visibility, I'm not talking about just visibility for the sake of visibility. Still today, leaders don't understand what assets do I own? What am I responsible for? Where does my data reside? The complexity of that whole asset management has quadrupled in the last 2 years because of the hybrid environments. You have your on-prem, your cloud, your no-code to your SaaS. Suddenly you have a perimeter that is completely dissolved and what we call is a boundaryless network, which makes it extremely hard for the security leader to even understand, what do I have? Once I know what I have, how do I enumerate what I have? And what do I look at my exposures? I call it the DEE model. If you know D.E. Shah, the best mathematician, discover, enumerate, understand your exposures, right? So once you have the D, the E, then you can think about remediation. Then you can think about response. Then you can think about resilience. You can call the DEAR, and R can stand for 50 things we do today, right? Whether from a response, from a resilience, from remediation to react, right? So your R can be multiple facets, but the 3 guiding principles in my personal view for leaders are, let me discover, let me enumerate, and let me ensure what my exposures are. Then let me manage the way I want, whether it's pre-incident, during an incident, or post-incident.
Thank you. So next question will be Sasi Edupuganti. He says, thank you for sharing your emotional and successful journey, humbling and relatable for sure. What was your criteria in selecting your first set of customers outside of the ones that wanted to take a bet on you?
It was completely barbarian and opportunistic, right? So, I mean, you have to realize my journey. I'm a researcher with a lot of pride. And my wife calls it a lot of, 800-pound gorilla on your back, right? I'm a researcher. I did work for the United States government. I build this, I build that, right? But when you get to a customer, you got to check all that outside the door. The guy is writing a check. You know more this researcher with pride, right? So I learned it from day one. Again, we learned that in the workshop I talked about, my uncles. Anybody who came in, we used to greet them, respect them, and give them a glass of water and offer them food, no matter who the guy is. He can be the richest guy or he can be a lorry driver. We used to do that. I took that as a principle, respect, no matter who it is, and that helped me do it. So it was very opportunistic. Literally, I used to go, meet them, introduce myself. I'm a researcher. This is what I've done. Would you give me an opportunity? That is it. It's very opportunistic. I didn't have an ideal customer profile. I didn't have a message. I didn't have a story. All I had was, I did this work for the United States government. We solved some amazing things for the government. I see you have a problem, did that awareness, and I had a 90% success rate. Today, every meeting I go to, Baba's grace, I have a very fortunate way of telling them their pain point, make them realize that, and telling how we can partner to solve that problem. It was completely barbarian, and it's an opportunistic way. We're able to acquire our customers. And of course, when the journey goes on, you'll understand your patterns, you'll have teams come in, and you have to put a process together and you scale. But in the initial days, it was completely opportunistic.
That's awesome. So next question is from Sarvesh. Is there a time that in your journey that makes you that almost you wanted to give up? If so, then what were the things that motivated you the most not to give up?
Several times, not one day. 2015, when we were about to raise capital, we did not need capital, but it was a pride for me to raise capital. We pitched 60 VCs. Remember, we are not a Silicon Valley company. We are from New Mexico to the world. New Mexico, we're a blondie for New Mexico, a railroad sidekick for the sandhill, right? I mean, I take that with a lot of humbleness and humility on that. We're nobody coming to the sandhill pitching. We pitched 60 people. We got calls, but nobody was willing to write a check. Every call I used to get is, if you have a lead, we will write a check. If you have a lead, we will write a check. The key is who is going to lead it, right? And we're fortunate enough to have Paladin lead the capital. So that journey was very hard. 6.5 months of very hard work. And I said, do we really need to do this? Can I just continue to bootstrap? Why should I even go through this pain, right? But raising capital is the right thing to do. The time between the cash out for 2017 and 2018 Series B, we were 2 payrolls away and would have missed a payroll. And I wrote a personal check. I had my father wire money from India to write my payroll. That's what I did. And that was extremely emotional. I'm at my age, I'm going back to my parents and asking for a check. And he did send me the money. Divi stock is what they sold, and send me the money, and we ran our payroll. And it was the time. It was so hard that, okay, 10 years into this, we have nothing to look back. The last resort was diluting my 401k. That's all I had. So, but, graciously, my dad sent some money and we were able to, that was the moment. 2019 is the finale, right? What's next? The board wants to exit. I don't think we're ready to exit. If you don't listen to the board, if you run out of money, I have no backers. That is the hardest part. Your board, you have investor fatigue. You're on your own. And I took my way and it's God's way. And I stood for the company and I said, you know what? I'm going to fight it. That was a moment I felt like giving up, but it's the family pride and the honor that said, I'm not going to give it up. It was a very, very strong support from my wife. I mean, absolutely. You'll be a laughing stock. You cannot do this. You got to figure this out. And that's where you have people, right? I mean, of course, as I said, my sister is very close to me. And she said, you know what? Believe in you, do what you got to do, and you'll get it out. And my EAs were extremely helpful as well. I mean, a lot of people look at EAs as not strategic, and they were always there for me as a pillar, helping me. You know what? We see this every day with you. We are with you. You got to write this out. So multiple moments, by the way. Don't give up. I will tell you one thing, never give it up.
That's what makes it exciting. All right. So let me ask one question is, in one of your articles, you have written a number of them in dark reading, which I have also read some of them. And back in 2019, you said, ultimately, predictive models should not be considered a perfect answer on their own, as you talked about how advances in data science are making it possible to shift vulnerability management from a reactive to proactive discipline. So what do you suggest are the holistic approaches for vulnerability management so it can be contained? I mean, I always say that security, there is never going to be 100% security, right? It doesn't matter. That's why you see the opportunities, like you mentioned, there are already 4 pillars of on-prem, cloud, no code, and then you have all this SaaS. It's just like borderless world right now, and it's going to be more and more borderless. So you shouldn't, even my own company, which is into this whole, the cybersecurity and the compliance automation, which has become so important for companies to buy your product, that you have to have all these in place. Right? So what would you suggest?
It's a great question. The challenge you have to look at when you look at predictive modeling, for a matter of fact, any ML or AI methods, it's all about the data. it's the garbage in, garbage out. The challenge, when I made that statement, I still stand with the statement, we have very limited data. And the variety of the data we have is not enough for the models to be efficient in their predictive nature. That should be used as a strategy, but not as a complete guiding post. We should be proactive. You asked a question, what should we be doing? Absolutely, we have to be proactive. We have to take a risk-based approach. Think like an attacker. What I tell is, defense doesn't sell anything, right? When you do NFL or NBA, if you play defense, your tickets are worth nothing. However, if you play offense, your tickets are worth a lot of money. That's the same strategy. Take an offensive strategy and build a method that will allow you to take a risk-based. That's what you should do. And wherever you can do automation from a data analysis, from a triage, from a correlation, use that, right? So these are some of the very interesting things you should look at, and do not use just predictive as do it all, be it all. It's not a silver bullet.
Very good. Yeah. So next question, before I'll ask you another couple of questions. By the way, it's time is 7 o'clock. Do you have 5 to 10 minutes more to
Sure.
more questions, or are you okay? All right. So next question is from Avinashers, another wonderful entrepreneur, actually. So I've known very well. So he obviously amazing grit and perseverance, Srinivas. So that's a compliment to you. And love the story. Is there anything you would do differently if you were to do it again? That's his question.
Absolutely. So there are a couple of things I will do first. I will ensure I will interview, and not I, first I will find a set of co-founders who I believe are going to row this boat with me. No more solo ships, right? So from day one, I'll put together a team where I will have a marketer from day one. I will have a good product leader. I can wait for an engineering leader, but definitely a good product leader, right? And if I have the luxury of having a great engineering leader, I'll have it. Not worried about sales yet. Marketing first, product, and engineering leader. We want to spend enough time interviewing as many people as we can that matter, right? It doesn't always have to be the CISOs. It can be a ground up, bottom up model, depending on what problem I'm trying to solve. If it's developers, I don't want to go to the CISOs or the directors or the engineering leaders. I get nothing. I want to go to the actual developer who's writing code, right? If it is something related to risk, then I would start with the board members, the CFOs, CIOs, and the CISOs, because I want to get a cohort of what is all risk about, because it's not always the CISO who does it, right? So depending on what problem we're trying to solve, I want to interview as many people and define at least 3 pain points we can solve for 10,000 people, not for 100 people. That's the number one guiding post. 3 things for 10,000 people. And it's all about easy to use. First, easy to sign up, easy to use, easy to try, easy to buy. I'm going to focus all about easy, easy, easy. That's one of the biggest challenges we have seen at RiskSense. Everything has to be a POC. Everything has to be a 5-touch process, right? So that's the number one. And I know it might come off crappy, but it has to be simple. It has to say scale. It has to be sexy, UI and UX. S, which stands for Shri, that will be my guiding principle, the 3 S's. And these are the 3 things I'll absolutely focus on if I have to redo this again.
That's good. You got a new name, easy to the power 4S3.
I love it.
Okay, so the next last one question I wanted to ask you, another one in another article of yours in a year ago, February, in Dark Reading, which obviously has a lot of articles in the networking and the security area, as you can tell from the name, Dark Reading. So you talked about how we enabled ransomware to become a multi-billion-dollar industry. Could you elaborate on how you or the others did that? To become
Absolutely, right?
I'm just picking on you.
So, no, I mean, it's very interesting. 2016 is the first time when we were very bold as a company and said, ransomware cannot be taken light. We're crossing the chasm of being nuisance to a disruptor, and it will take lives. When we said that, people were very kind of like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? 2021 has proven, right? Gasoline, meat, hospitals, transportation systems, right? So you have seen that. 2017, RiskSense team, now that entire team is with a company called Cybersecurity Works. The team wrote what's called double pulsar that became a WannaCry. Still today, WannaCry is one of the most lethal ransomware that's in the world. Still today. So when I made that statement, you're not pulling my leg, that's when we showed the world, if you don't pay attention to something that lethal and internet scale, it will have a ripple effect, right? And then Bluekeep was written by the same team, then NetLogOn. So these are some of the very interesting things and our contribution to the field. And over the years, now it's proven over and over again, if you don't have proper cyber hygiene, which is not just patching, but configurations and secure code, the guys are going to take an advantage and build billions out of that.
No, that's true. And it's still like you're saying multi-billion, it will probably continue to grow.
Absolutely. And it's growing exponentially.
And more opportunities.
That's correct.
So, yep. So, well, with that, I would like to really thank you so much, Srinivas, for being here. I know you're sitting in the cold country, Utah, right now in your head offices. And from there, you shared this amazing entrepreneurial journey you have gone through, and obviously lots of insights. So last question before I want to close it up, what would be, what are the trends you see where if I'm an entrepreneur who wants to start something in security space today, for the audience, if someone wants to be, what would you suggest they should work on? Because obviously you can't for a few years, at least until you're at Ivanti, so maybe someone else can benefit from your ideas.
Ideas are dime a dozen, right? I mean, the key is execution is what matters. I mean, there are some very interesting problems in cybersecurity, right? There's a huge dev movement going on, right? Whether it's DevSecOps, right? We got to shift security to the extreme left. That problem is still not solved. We're getting in an era of SaaS. On an average, about every company uses about 30 SaaS products, and you're in the cloud. Understanding your SaaS risks and your cloud risks is a major opportunity. And the third one is even starting a team of a true MSSP. If you can even create a great service team with a good tech of where you can help enterprises take away their security burden, that is becoming to be a multi-billion-dollar company as well. So I already gave 3 ideas.
No, that's amazing. You know, these are really, So, all right, guys, those who are planning to start now, take the first step and persevere just like Srinivas did. And I'm sure you'll be another next upcoming unicorn or megacons. So with that, thank you so much for being here again, Srinivas. And, for this amazing story, really appreciate it very much from Ty, everyone left just now. But he mentioned already, I want to mention one of the things. He also made a great statement that Sri, you're a breath of fresh air. Thank you for discovering and featuring Sri at MyStory. So anyway, so that's from him, and I'll never give up. That was another statement he made it for all the folks in the audience. If you have firm belief, self-confidence, and are self-aware, self-awareness is one thing most entrepreneurs lack and do not succeed. That's why I don't succeed. So it's important to become self-aware of your own strengths and weaknesses rather than because moment you know it all, meaning it's going to be a difficult ride. So it's important to know that what you don't know, right? Thank you again. All right, good night, everyone. And so we'll have next MyStory in November. Please keep an eye for that and attend that. And Srinivas, please have a wonderful time in Utah, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Naveen.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ty, for this great opportunity. And thank you, audience.
Thank you. All right, bye.